By October 5th, your reality will either undergo a significant transformation or remain exactly as it is. There will be no second chances, no extended deadlines, and no postponed invitations. The universe operates with precise timing, and this specific window has clear boundaries. While this might feel overwhelming, consider this important truth. Your most significant breakthrough may finally align with all the preparation you've been unknowingly doing. The setbacks, the near misses, the quiet perseverance that has burned within you, all of it has been guiding you toward this convergence. Once the calendar moves beyond that particular date, the opportunity closes. Right now, as you read these words, you're still within the accessible zone. Every extended period in your life, every phase where progress seemed to stall, is interwoven into this single moment. You may not see the pattern yet, but those seemingly random elements have been orchestrating themselves in the background. October 5th is more than just another date on the calendar. It represents the point where all your accumulated energy crystallizes into something undeniable, provided you are prepared to receive it. Doesn't this feeling overwhelm you sometimes? You invest energy relentlessly day after day. You maintain your commitment, yet nothing seems to change. It's like being stuck on an exercise machine, heart racing, muscles aching, while the scenery stays the same. A nagging voice whispers that maybe all this effort is pointless, that your time and energy are dissolving into nothing. Yet, something deeper within you challenges this doubt. That small voice murmurs that perhaps transformation is closer than you think. This internal battle between skepticism and resolve is exhausting, but it's also a clear indication that you're in a phase of accumulation. Think about how atmospheric conditions develop before it starts to rain. For a long time, moisture simply layers upon moisture, creating the illusion of stagnation. This can go on for hours, building density and making you feel like the very air is trapped. But anyone who has observed patiently knows that storm systems are never truly still. They're accumulating mass, building energy, holding everything in, until the precise moment the heavens open up. Your life often works in the same way. Those periods where nothing seems to be happening are often when everything is being orchestrated for a breakthrough. History shows this pattern again and again. Take Nikola Tesla, for example. He endured countless experiments and countless attempts to harness alternating current. Each setback wasn't proof that his vision was impossible. It was confirmation that he was refining his approach. With every miscalculation, the intensity grew. That intensity itself signaled that he was getting closer to success. Without that long sequence of unsuccessful trials, there would have been no revolutionary breakthrough. You can imagine him in those moments, holding yet another failed prototype, facing that critical question: do I keep going or do I give up? His choice to continue made all the difference. Athletes experience this same season of waiting. Someone training in the dark hours before dawn might spend years without seeing a single victory. They might endure entire seasons of defeat, questioning whether all the dedication is worth it. Then one victory appears, and suddenly all those years become meaningful. The hours of preparation weren't wasted. They were invested in building roots beneath the surface. Without those unseen years, success on the field or track would never have materialized. If you ask them afterward, most will say that it wasn't the victory that transformed them. It was the waiting, the continuous accumulation that forged their resilience. This truth deserves to be remembered. Difficulty doesn't mean you've wandered off your path. It means something is quietly maturing, like seeds in the ground long before they break through the surface. What looks like silence is often momentum building backstage, preparing for the moment things explode forward. This applies not only to famous innovators or elite athletes, but to ordinary people navigating transitions in their own lives. Those long plateaus aren't meaningless chapters. They're the foundation where roots grow, preparing for growth that seems sudden, but has actually been building steadily. The hardest part is trusting that what feels like stagnation is actually progress in disguise. Waiting can seem empty, but it's not. Just as clouds don't gather without purpose and training isn't without effect, your periods of apparent stillness have meaning. They're building foundations that will be essential later. Eventually, the clouds will part, the seeds will sprout, and the victory will arrive. The reward may take time, but the accumulated pressure itself is part of the process. Subtle signs of transformation begin to appear as the timing gets closer, but most people overlook them until the change is undeniable. How do you recognize a turning point when there's no obvious announcement? That's the real challenge. Life rarely announces these things. Usually the shift begins quietly. You might sense that things feel slightly different or notice small things moving in unexpected ways. These moments are so easily dismissed that most people write them off as random. But often they're the opening notes of something coming, like hearing music in the distance before you see a celebration. Subtle rhythms, barely noticeable, but hinting that something bigger is just around the corner. The strange thing is that these small signals often appear when you least expect them. Imagine someone at work feeling stuck, believing their contributions go unnoticed and unappreciated. Then, out of the blue, their supervisor asks to speak with them. Sometimes the conversation is constructive, sometimes supportive. At first it might not seem like much, but look closer. It's an early sign that something about them has been noticed. That interaction could mean that the advancement, opportunity, or recognition they've been waiting for is much closer than they thought. The conversation isn't just feedback, it's a signal that the momentum has shifted. History is full of examples of this quiet preparation. Many entrepreneurs spend years hearing no, doors slamming in their faces, but every now and then, something feels different. Picture a young entrepreneur, worn out from constant rejection, noticing something subtle, an increase in customer inquiries, or maybe unexpected interest in a product that barely sold before. Someone ready to give up might see that shift as too small to matter, but in reality, it's a crack in the wall proving that things are changing. By choosing to notice and respond to that small shift, the entire direction of the business starts to change. That simple improvement becomes the sign of the expansion they've been chasing for years. Scientific research actually has a name for this. Our minds are wired to spot patterns, constantly looking for clues that don't quite fit. Researchers have studied what they call near-success experiences, those times when you almost succeed, but not quite. Instead of being discouraging, these moments sharpen your focus and heighten your awareness. Your mind captures the smallest signal and prepares to pursue it even harder. So, when a subtle opportunity arises, your brain is not only able to recognize it, but it's already getting ready to act on it. These signals can come in many forms. Sometimes they're disguised as unexpected opportunities, small chances popping up out of nowhere. Other times, it's an emotional lift after weeks of waiting, glimpses of clarity when everything felt murky before. For some, it might be as simple as new people entering their lives or connections forming that weren't there before. These delicate clues often feel too insignificant to announce themselves loudly. But the truth is, they're whispering that transformation is already on its way to you. If this sounds familiar, if you're seeing these subtle patterns in your own life, take a moment to acknowledge them. You can't force these signals to appear, but you can recognize them. Breakthroughs don't arrive with a fanfare. They arrive with whispers. The gentlest shift in circumstances, a small spark of encouragement, the most subtle pattern indicating something new. If you're observant, you'll see that these aren't just isolated incidents. They're invitations to prepare, to position yourself, to focus your attention. Most people miss these signs because frustration is building at the same time. The moment the shift is closest is often when discouragement is loudest. That's the strange contradiction. You can be incredibly close to a breakthrough, but because it's quiet and small, it's easier to assume nothing is happening. But those who lean in and pay attention are the ones who step through when the breakthrough finally happens. The community gathering around this understanding isn't just consuming content. We're exploring consciousness. We understand that awareness itself is a creative force. And the more of us who recognize these threshold moments, the more the world will reflect that truth. Subscribing isn't just about staying connected to videos, it's about staying connected to a field of awareness that sees possibilities others miss. There's real psychology behind this. Deadlines sharpen the mind. They strip away distractions and force attention into clearer focus. That's why students suddenly find energy the night before a project is due, or why working adults see their productivity spike when a firm deadline approaches. Your brain is wired to treat time-sensitive moments differently. October 5th creates that sharpened state. It creates urgency and focus so that you act in line with what you've been preparing for all along. Now, here's what quantum physics teaches us about observation and the collapse of possibilities. Before October 5th, multiple potential futures exist in superposition. Different versions of your life, different timelines, different outcomes, all exist simultaneously in potential. But the act of conscious observation, your focused awareness on this moment, begins to collapse those possibilities into a single manifest reality. This is why your state of mind as you approach October 5th isn't separate from what happens on October 5th. Your consciousness is literally part of the mechanism that determines which possibility becomes real. Most people approach these moments unconsciously. They hope for the best but expect disappointment. They want change but expect more of the same. This unconscious approach creates what quantum physicists call decoherence, where the field of possibilities collapses into the most likely outcome based on past patterns. But a conscious approach, awareness of the moment, clarity about what you're choosing, alignment with the process itself, creates coherent collapse, where possibilities that seemed impossible become inevitable. Think about entanglement for a moment. In quantum physics, particles that have been entangled remain connected regardless of distance. When one particle changes, the other changes instantly. Your consciousness and the field of possibilities around October 5th are entangled. Your state of awareness directly affects what becomes possible. This isn't just mystical thinking dressed up in scientific language. This is how consciousness and reality actually work at the quantum level. Pause for a moment and reflect. Have you noticed your old patterns starting to fade away, maybe without you even trying to change them? But here's where it gets even more profound. There's something called the quantum Zeno effect, where frequent observation can freeze a quantum system in its current state. But there's also the inverse, the anti-Zeno effect, where the right kind of observation can accelerate transitions between states. Your consciousness as you approach October 5th is like a tuning fork that can either freeze your current reality or accelerate your transition into a new one. The key is the quality of your attention. Most people observe their lives from a place of anxiety or desperation. They watch their circumstances with the energy of, "Please change," or "This isn't working." But that kind of observation creates quantum decoherence. It actually prevents the change they're seeking. It's like trying to see your reflection in turbulent water. The very agitation obscures what you're trying to see. The trick lies in what we might call coherent observation. This is watching your life from a place of curiosity rather than urgency, presence rather than desperation. It's the difference between staring at a flower, trying to force it to bloom, and simply being present with the flower as it unfolds naturally. Coherent observation doesn't push or pull. It creates a field of awareness that allows natural transformation to happen. Now there's another quantum principle that most people have never heard of, but it's absolutely crucial for understanding October 5th. The concept of quantum tunneling. In classical physics, if a particle doesn't have enough energy to overcome a barrier, it simply can't pass through. But in quantum mechanics, particles can tunnel through barriers that should be impossible to cross. They don't go over the barrier or around it. They literally appear on the other side, as if the barrier never existed. This is happening in your life right now. There are circumstances that seem impossible to change, barriers that seem insurmountable. Your logical mind looks at them and concludes that you don't have enough energy, resources, or time to overcome them. But October 5th operates on quantum principles, not classical ones. It's a moment where consciousness can tunnel through barriers that seemed solid, where solutions can appear that bypass the usual limitations entirely. The key to quantum tunneling in consciousness is something called coherent intention. This isn't the same as positive thinking or wishful hoping. Coherent intention is when your conscious mind, your emotional state, and your energy are all aligned on the same outcome. When this alignment reaches a certain threshold, what physicists call critical mass, it creates a probability wave that can alter reality in ways that seem impossible. But there's something most people don't understand about building coherent intention. It's not about forcing yourself to feel positive or pretending everything is fine. True coherence includes all of your experiences, the doubt, the fear, the uncertainty, but holding it within a broader sense of trust in the entire process. Think of it as a symphony, complete with both minor and major keys, crafting a harmony that's far more intricate and beautiful than either could achieve independently. This leads us to another vital idea, the distinction between wanting and choosing. Most people are looking at October 5th with a mindset of wanting. They desire a change in their circumstances. They crave success. They long for relief from their struggles, but wanting originates from a place of lack, and that lack generates a vibrational frequency that actually pushes away what you're trying to attract. It's like trying to connect two magnets when the poles are mismatched. They repel each other, no matter how much force you use. Choosing, however, stems from a place of empowerment. When you choose something, you're not operating from a sense of deficiency. You're acknowledging that you possess the power to shape your own reality. Choosing creates a different quantum signature compared to wanting. It sends a message to the realm of possibilities that says, I am ready to receive this, rather than, I need this because I lack it. The problem is that many individuals have been conditioned to want, rather than choose. They've been taught that desire is about missing something and trying to acquire it, instead of realizing that they are the driving force behind their own lives. October 5th presents a chance to shift from the frequency of wanting to the frequency of choosing, and that shift alone has the potential to transform everything. Now, let's delve into something that connects the quantum realm with the practical, the concept of emergence in complex systems theory. Emergence is when simple interactions at one level give rise to intricate behaviors at another. Consider how individual birds, following simple rules, create the breathtaking patterns of murmurations. No single bird is in control of the overall pattern, yet the pattern emerges from the collective behavior of all the birds reacting to their immediate surroundings. Your life operates as an emergent system. All the small choices you've been making, the subtle shifts in your awareness, the quiet preparations you've been undertaking, these are like individual birds in a murmuration. And October 5th is the moment when the pattern they've been creating becomes visible. This is why breakthroughs often seem to appear out of nowhere, but they don't actually come from nowhere. They emerge from the complex interplay of all the elements that have been aligning beneath your conscious awareness. Now, here's what makes emergence so fascinating. It's incredibly sensitive to initial conditions. Even a minor change at the beginning of the process can lead to significant differences in the final outcome. This is why your current state of consciousness right now is so vital. You're setting the initial conditions for what will emerge on October 5th. Why do the hardest moments seem to come right before things change? It almost seems unfair. You spend weeks, maybe months, putting in the effort, and instead of relief, your challenges get worse, obstacles pile up, disappointments come one after another, and you start to wonder if you're pushing against something impossible. It's like life saves its toughest tests for when you're already at your limit, when you've already used up all your reserves. But that sharp edge, the place where you think you can't go on, is often right before the breakthrough. Think about how pressure builds inside a sealed container. For a long time, the heat just builds, invisible but constant, pushing upward. Nothing happens on the surface, but underneath, the force is growing. Eventually, the lid rattles. The sound of pressure escaping announces itself, and what was contained bursts into view. The heaviest resistance comes right before release because something is actually changing behind the scenes. Life mirrors this pattern. The weight doesn't pile up as punishment. It builds because you're close to opening, which is why things feel unbearable at the end. It's often like digging deep underground, scraping through the dirt, sweat pouring, exhaustion growing. What you don't realize is that the stone wall in front of you is only a few inches thick. Just beyond it, treasure is waiting. But from where you stand, it seems infinitely far away. Most people stop there, convinced there's no point in going on. But if they had just swung the tool a few more times, everything would have changed. That's the cruel trick of the breaking point. It never reveals that it's the final step. It only challenges you to push just one more time. Michael Jordan experienced this in his own life. As a young man, he was cut from his high school basketball team. Imagine going home that day with news that would feel like the end of a dream to most young people. The thought would creep in, maybe I'm not meant for this. But instead of giving in, he doubled down on his practice. He turned that disappointment into motivation. And that persistence took him from being rejected as a teenager to being recognized as one of the greatest players of all time. That rejection wasn't proof that he was finished. It was a preface, a pressure point he had to overcome to become who he was meant to be. This isn't just about sports. In labs and workshops, scientists and inventors endure waves of failure before they finally see results. Experiment after experiment, formula after formula, until they're nearly exhausted. Then, on what feels like the last attempt, the combination works. The result appears. The long search ends. If they had stopped at their breaking point, we wouldn't have half the innovations we rely on every day. Those failures weren't meaningless. They were preparation. Each one eliminated what didn't work, clearing the way for the formula that finally did. Psychology has a word for this grinding process: resilience. Research has shown that achievement isn't just about natural talent. It's about persistence, the ability to keep going through the very moments that seem designed to make you quit. And here's the incredible part. Those emotional lows, the days when you doubt yourself the most, are often the same days you're closest to your goal. It's not a coincidence. That pressure builds strength, developing resilience that you couldn't build any other way. In other words, the weight you're carrying is never wasted. It's a teacher, making sure you're ready for the door when it finally opens. So when you see that everything is getting harder, that the resistance is building up right when you need relief, remind yourself that this heaviness means you're right before the opening. The darkest point means the breakthrough is about to happen. And that's why October 5th isn't just another date on the calendar. It's that very threshold facing you. What if there was one day, just one, that marked the point where everything you've been working toward finally comes together? That's what October 5th represents. Not just a random square on a calendar, not just another week passing, but the point where all those hidden efforts, the waiting, the signals, and even the pressure that's been building, all collide into something visible. All the work doesn't just scatter into meaningless pieces, it concentrates right here. But here's what most people don't understand about these threshold moments. They operate on quantum principles. The observer effect in quantum physics shows us that the act of watching something changes the outcome. Your awareness of this moment, your decision to pay attention, these aren't passive activities, they're active forces that literally reshape what becomes possible. When you approach October 5th, understanding that your focused attention is part of the creative process, you're not just waiting for something to happen to you, you're helping create what happens. Think about coherence in quantum field theory. When particles line up their frequencies, they create something greater than the sum of their parts. Your months of preparation, your accumulated experiences, your refined intentions, they're like particles that have been slowly aligning. October 5th is the moment when this coherence reaches critical mass. But coherence requires you to participate consciously. It requires you to align yourself with the field of possibility that's been forming around you. This is where the mystical meets the practical. This isn't just a social media interaction. It's you signaling to the quantum field of possibility that you recognize what's happening, that you're choosing to participate consciously in this moment of convergence. Your declaration creates a resonance that amplifies the very forces that have been building toward October 5th. Let that sink in for a moment. Feel how different it feels to declare your readiness rather than simply hoping for the best. This is the difference between passively accepting whatever life brings and actively co-creating your reality. The quantum field responds to clear intentions. It responds to conscious participation. And October 5th is the moment when your conscious participation can create results that seemed impossible just days before. Now, while we've explored the quantum mechanics of consciousness and threshold moments today, this really just scratches the surface of what's possible when you understand how to work with the complete system of frequency transmission and field consciousness. The thing about this moment is that it won't last forever. After October 5th, the gateway doesn't stay where it is. It closes, and not in some symbolic way. It seals in a way that means that exact opening will never be offered again. The universe works like this. It presents a single, precise window, and then it closes it. You don't get to come back later when it's more convenient. The timing around this date won't repeat in the same way. Imagine it like a bridge lowering across a river. Once it touches the other side, you have the choice to step onto it. But after a short time, it raises again. You can stand there and watch it lift, knowing you didn't cross when you had the chance, or you can walk forward while it's still there. That's how October 5th works. It's only functional in its moment, and once it's gone, it doesn't come back. There's another layer here that most people completely miss. Time itself works differently during these threshold moments. Linear time, the tick-tock of seconds on a clock, is just one way of experiencing time. But there's also what we might call coherent time, where past, present, and future collapse into a single point of creative potential. October 5th exists in coherent time. That's why the preparation you've been doing for months, the signals you've been receiving, and the future you're moving toward all feel like they're happening at the same time. In coherent time, your readiness now affects not just what happens on October 5th, but it actually reaches backward and forward, reorganizing the meaning of everything that led to this moment and everything that will flow from it. This is why some people experience their entire life story reshaping itself during threshold moments. The promotion you get isn't just about the promotion. It's about realizing that every challenge you faced was preparing you for exactly this level of responsibility. The relationship that begins isn't just about companionship. It's about understanding that every heartbreak was clearing space for exactly this depth of connection. Think about harvest season. Farmers know that fruit ripens for only a short time. Leave it too long, and the sun burns it out, or time weakens it. The field looked promising for months, but the harvest window is brief. Miss it and the reward fades. It's the same with opportunity. The growth you've been nurturing doesn't stay in perfect condition forever. There's a right time to act, and then it's gone. October 5th is that harvest date for you. You can see the same pattern play out on the biggest stages. Athletes step into one championship race that defines their entire career. Everything before feels like rehearsal, but that one race becomes the defining moment. In politics, a single election can change a nation for years. One vote, one choice, one outcome, and nothing looks the same afterward. Moments like these are never open-ended. They're sharp, unrepeatable breaks in the usual flow of time. If what you're hearing is resonating deeply, if you recognize this truth, then subscribe to this frequency. Subscribe to staying aware when the quantum field is shifting. Subscribe to recognizing when coherent time is opening up opportunities that won't exist in linear time. Subscribe to being someone who actively participates in the moments when reality becomes flexible. There's a field of study called biomimicry, where scientists analyze natural systems to figure out how to create more efficient technologies for humans. One of the most fascinating discoveries is how natural systems manage what scientists call adaptive cycles. Every living system goes through periods of growth, conservation, release, and renewal. The period leading up to October 5th is like the release phase, where old structures break down to pave the way for new ones. In forest ecosystems, this release phase can look like death and destruction. Trees fall, undergrowth dies back, and everything looks chaotic and broken. However, this apparent destruction is actually laying the groundwork for new growth. The nutrients from the decomposing matter nourish the seeds that have been waiting for this precise moment to sprout. What appears to be an ending is actually the preparation for a new beginning. Your life has been going through its own adaptive cycle. The things that have been breaking down, the structures that no longer serve you, the patterns that have been dissolving. These aren't signs that something is wrong. They're indicators that your system is getting ready for renewal. October 5th marks the beginning of the new growth phase, but only if you understand how to work with the natural rhythm rather than against it. This is where ancient wisdom and modern science beautifully converge. Traditional cultures intuitively understood these cycles. They had rituals and ceremonies that celebrated the death and rebirth pattern that governs all life. They knew that trying to bypass the dissolution phase only leads to stagnation, and trying to force the growth phase only results in exhaustion. The invitation now is to trust the intelligence of the process. Your life inherently knows how to renew itself. Your consciousness inherently knows how to evolve. Your circumstances inherently know how to transform. But this inherent intelligence can only function when you stop trying to control the process and start learning how to skillfully participate in it. So, as you move closer to October 5th, remember that you're not just waiting for something to happen. You're actively participating in what happens. Your thoughts, your emotions, your level of presence, your willingness to remain open to possibilities that exceed your current comprehension, these are all part of the creative mechanism. You are not separate from the process. You are the process. There's one more layer that connects all of this, and it has to do with what scientists call non-local correlation. This refers to the mysterious phenomenon where events that are separated in space and time seem to be connected in ways that cannot be explained by typical cause and effect relationships. Your readiness now for what will emerge on October 5th creates a non-local correlation between this moment and that moment. Your consciousness right now is literally reaching forward in time and pulling that future reality toward you. But non-local correlation operates in both directions. The future reality that's trying to emerge on October 5th is also reaching backward in time, influencing your present moment, creating the synchronicities, opportunities, and insights that are preparing you for what's coming. This explains why the signals have been appearing, why the pressure has been building, and why everything has been pointing toward this convergence. You're not just moving toward October 5th. October 5th is moving toward you. And when you pause and reflect on the months leading up to this point, the long wait, the false starts, the subtle signs, it becomes clear that they weren't disconnected events. They were building blocks, stacking together to form a bigger picture. The hardship wasn't random. The waiting wasn't a delay. Even the weakest points weren't wasted. They were compressing everything toward this single threshold. And now, it's here. I'd like to suggest something that might amplify everything we've discussed today. Consider watching this video each morning as you approach October 5th. Each viewing will activate different layers of understanding as your consciousness continues to align with these principles. And if someone in your life is also navigating their own threshold moment, sharing this video with them will create an energetic ripple effect. It strengthens your own alignment with these quantum principles while expanding the field of conscious awareness that makes transformation possible for everyone. After October 5th, this opportunity will not exist in the same way. You can choose to watch it pass by, or you can understand what it truly represents. The long wait has been leading up to this. The signals were announcing it in whispers. The pressure was proof of its proximity. Now, the opening is here, and you're standing right in front of it. Which means the question isn't whether opportunities exist, it's whether you're ready to step forward while the bridge is still down. Every struggle that has carried you to this point hasn't been wasted. Those delays, the setbacks, even the moments that felt pointless, they were all shaping the foundation you need right now. Waiting built strength you didn't even know you were developing, and patience became a quiet form of power. Each difficulty was less of a wall and more of a door getting ready to open. Here's the final piece that brings everything together. The morphic field theory proposes that when enough individuals embody a new pattern of consciousness, that pattern becomes accessible to everyone. Your conscious participation in this October 5th threshold moment doesn't just impact your individual reality, it contributes to a field of possibility that makes similar breakthroughs available to others. When you step through your door, you make it easier for others to find theirs. This is why community is important. This is why your awareness matters. This is why your choice to participate consciously, rather than unconsciously, sends ripples through the fabric of reality itself. You're not just changing your own life, you're contributing to the evolution of consciousness itself. Take a moment now and drop one word in the comments that captures the transformation you're choosing to embody as October 5th approaches. One word that represents your energetic signature to the quantum field. One word that declares your readiness to participate consciously in what's becoming possible. And if you feel called to stay connected to this frequency, to remain aware of these moments when reality becomes malleable, subscribe not just to stay informed, but to stay coherent. The more of us who recognize when the field is shifting, the more powerful these shifts become. The more of us who approach threshold moments consciously, the more threshold moments become available to all of us. After October 5th, this exact opening won't return. But right now it's here, waiting for your conscious participation. The bridge is down, the field is coherent, and the moment is alive. What you choose in the space between now and then will determine not only what happens to you, but who you become in the process. And who you become ripples out to affect the entire field of human possibility. The door is open. The moment is here. Your consciousness is the key. What will you choose? There's something else crucial you need to understand about the observer effect and how you're literally shifting between different versions of yourself with every moment of awareness. The patterns you're breaking through now connect directly to how consciousness creates reality through observation itself, revealing why your old identity must dissolve for your new reality to emerge.